So it's an honor for me to bring up my father, John Johnson, Dr. Donald Johnson, State Farm Insurance agent. I think that's tied to his name. You can't say his name without State Farm Insurance. And I definitely want to take a minute once again to recognize his wife, Eva Johnson. Thank you for her support, her love for him as they've been married for how long? 10 years. 10 years, 10 double digits. Great, you know. Dad needed a companion, and she's been an amazing companion for him, and I appreciate her. So, without further ado, Dad Johnson.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we thank you for taking time from your very busy schedule to come in as I was and be with me this afternoon. And as I was preparing my thoughts, I reflect back on the 50 years that I've been doing this and realize how blessed I've been. DQ kind of shared with you a little bit about me. We moved from Missouri to Pensacola, Florida. From Pensacola, Florida to Charleston, West Virginia. From Charleston, West Virginia to this great state of Georgia. And in different capacities, you know, I was in the education sector, as he indicated. I was in the private sector as a HR, and I was worked in organized and non-organized facilities with the union. I reflect back in early 85. I was recruited here, and I was doing well, man. I was just thinking everything was going well. It couldn't get any better. Then I found myself, Brother Joe. I was married, unemployed, with 2 small kids. I did something dumb. Maybe you all haven't done anything dumb, but I found myself unemployed. I was embarrassed, I was angry, and think, what are you going to do? That's when I was just so blessed to have a loving family. Either I can stay in this long pity party, or I can get up and do something about it. I can't undo the dumb things, Joe, that I did, but I learned. Let me tell you about HK, and that's what I want to talk about. He was born in Lexington, Mississippi. He and my mother, Sarah, and they moved to St. Louis. And he was one of 20 kids. Either they said in Mississippi, you want to get out while it's dark, either you stop in St. Louis or Chicago or Detroit. But he left there and he stopped in. And in this union between Hezekiah and Sarah, there was 9. I'm going to get to the point now. Just think now, I was in a pity party. I thought nothing could happen. I got fired. It wasn't pleasant going on. Hey, how was your day, honey? Well, guess what? You got fired today, you know. So I didn't tell anybody. I was in a bad pity party. But a little bit about HK, he shared some values, some things with me about either you can stay there or you can get up and do something about it. And it was really devastated, man. I mean, and married with 2 small kids. My wife at that time said, look, this is not fun. I'm going to go back to St. Louis, man. And didn't know anybody in Cobb County, Georgia. But I pulled on my upbringing from Olivet Missionary Baptist Church. I call it University. That's where I want to share with you from what I learned from my father about what it is if you have a turning point in your life. That was a key turning point. That either I do something, or either I propel, or stay in this pity party. So the first thing he said, you know, a little bit about it. First thing he said, and the 4 things I'm going to talk to you about is the HK-ism. One is values. That's number 1, and we're going to talk about it in detail. Your values. Number 2 is integrity. Man. And I'm going to stay in order. Number 3 is relationship, and 4 is deliverables. growing up at Olivet University, I remember when Ron and I was doing something, those old deacons used to call us. But I've been really blessed in Cobb County. I mean, Cobb County has been good to me, for me and my family. One of the things that Quincy did not mention is that the youth leadership organization called Blacks United for Youth. And we've been organized for over 20 years. As a result of some outstanding people, we awarded over $300,000 in scholarship. Over $300,000 in scholarship. It wasn't that long ago in 85 when I had the pity party. Was unemployed, didn't know what to do, and then and was blessed to come from a family that has strong values, strong morals, and things like that. And growing up at Olivet Missionary Baptist Church, the first one is that he talked about is values. Anybody want to share what their values is? Values. He used to call us when I was growing up. He used to say, I didn't know my name was Don, because he used to say boy all the time. He said, boy, do this. So it was just values. What is a value? And a value is what you made out of. Go ahead, Q.
Yeah, I was going to say the value is what you find important and what drives you to do something.
One of his isms was, he said, boy, if you don't know yourself, you can't help anybody to do anything. And the value that I was taught is that don't have a pity party. You got to have a relationship with God, and you got to do something about it. Because I was totally embarrassed. I was determined that I wasn't going to go back to St. Louis as a failure. I mean, if you can imagine being fired and not having a job and being married with 2 small kids, and Quincy and Devin was little people at that time. And I just said, because I did something dumb. The value is your DNA. The value is what you made of. Anybody want to share a personal value that they have? It's just, it's that the reason why a lot of people they try to emulate somebody else. They try to be someone else. And HK said, boy, be yourself. Be the best that you can. That's the first thing. Because I was so frustrated and embarrassed about getting fired, it was just value. I just went back to Olivet University, where the older deacons, a superintendent of Sunday school, and all those people taught me. He said, the only time you lose, if you just stay there, you got to get up. Go ahead, Brother Joe. Which one?
It's funny, I just wanted just a personal testimony in regards to value when you talk about being fired. Ever since I graduated from the University of West Georgia, I started working on that Monday we graduated. I worked in a youth detention facility for almost 10 years and went from the bottom and worked my way up to the point of being a program manager. Every year, I would do a special dinner for our kids that were there, because a lot of our kids couldn't go home to their families, or they didn't have that support from their families. So I would bring outside food in with some other friends, and we would feed these kids. Just give them something different, let someone know that we're there to support them, and even though they can't go home, and they say other kids go home, you still have the support here from us. I did that for 5 years. In that 5th year, I was unfortunately let go because there was a breach in confidentiality. I had nothing to do with it, but since I was over the program and in regards to what was going on, someone had to be held accountable. So I was let go after almost 10 years of doing that, doing something from my heart, because my parents instilled values in me to give back, okay, to always uplift the next person, regardless of the situation. So needless to say, we talk about, being in the pity party. I was always taught never to be in that. And when I say never to be in that, I got up every morning, because I had a little girl who looked up to me. So the situation, I got up every morning like nothing changed. Put on my clothes like I was going to work, but I would go to McDonald's. I would sit and use their Wi-Fi, search for jobs, things of that magnitude, so my daughter wouldn't see a difference in what was going on. But also, too, if I stayed home, I would be in that pity party. So fast forward, I was given an opportunity to get into the school system. Came in as a parapro the year we had the storm. Now I remember like it was yesterday. I was actually about to go to the interview, and I turned back around, and I'm glad that I did, because I was just stuck in that. But fast forward, I was able to have the interview. I came as a paraprofessional in February. I was hired on as a teacher in May that same year. Because every day I came in, I would get to work an hour and a half early, I would study for the test. My lunch breaks, I do the same thing because once again, I had values that were instilled in me to ensure that I had to keep pushing forward because once again, I had to raise someone. With that being stated, I'm in my 5th year of teaching and I give all the glory to God, but also my parents for instilling those values in me. I'm currently in the year we're in now of the school, so I'm Teacher of the Year. With that being stated, I'm sure my fellow teacher here would understand that some people that go through their entire career teaching and will never receive that accolade. I was able to get that in my 5th year of teaching, and like I said, I give all the value and all the credit to God, but also my parents for teaching those values, knowing who I am, how I'm wired, but also, once again, living out those values they instilled in me. So I kind of resonate in regards to not having the pity party, doing what you need to do. So that's my testimony in regards to value.
Thank you, Joe, for sharing it and being so transparent. Is that it's your value, it's your character, it's what you, and that's what HK said, is what you made of. You cannot fake this. You cannot fool people. Either you have it or you don't. And the thing about it, I just said, because as you're going to see my personal value statement, and it's turning over, it says that for over 33 years, people have selected me because of my integrity, my faith, and my determination. What that means is that I will not compromise on my recommendations. You will get solutions that are proven, and you will. And the thing that people want is, in business, they want to be valued, respected, and they want you to listen to them. So what that means, you will always be valued, respected, and have peace of mind of doing business in this great agency. And that's what have driven me, and that's what really, but one of the things that I really want to say is that it's how you wired. I had to do some introspection about what type of person I am. My twin brother, all my brothers was calling me. He said, DJ, the word got out. He said, what are you doing? I said, no, I was determined that I wasn't going to leave, Atlanta wasn't going to beat me. And I just stayed there. It's what you made of. And I did some soul searching. You got to, and I did not really want to just do anything. It was an opportunity to do some introspection about how I want to spend my career. It wasn't necessarily the insurance business, but I wanted more autonomy. There are a lot of instruments out there that you can do about your personality and things like that. And so that's one of the things as you develop or fine tune or as you continue in your value statement, you got to be prepared. One of the HK-ism used to say, and Dr. Travis said it earlier when we was visiting, he gets to any commitment an hour in advance. I remember as a little boy, we used to, I said, why do we have to leave so early? In case you get a flat, that you can change a flat and get on. That's one of the things. And it had driven me that when I went out for an interview, I said, man, God, if you bless me with a job, you won't have to deal with me anymore, doing anything dumb, thinking I'm the man, and things like that. So one of the things is that as you take some introspection, what your value is that he's to say, get there early, plan for it. One of the things that you need to fine tune is that a turning point. A turning point is a devastating event. Could be loss of a loved one, could be fired from a job, could be a health or whatever. You're going to have some turning points. Anybody have any turning points? You're going to have turning points. But how you deal with it, that is the thing. And it goes back to your value. How do you deal with it? One of my turning points, it was a couple of them. One was when my father died, April 1, 1967. That's over 52 years ago. That was a turning point. Before then, I wasn't the best student. It's hard to believe, right? I wasn't the best student there is. Didn't make all grades, but I realized from then on, I gotta quit. I gotta get serious about life. A turning point. Another turning point is, Dr. Travis can appreciate this, when my first wife died. their mother. Man, if you haven't had, you got to, when you write your value statement, you got to prepare for it. If you haven't had any turning point, then it would knock you down where you're going to get up. After that, I didn't want to live, man. I really did. I said, Father, take me. Turning point, the value. But God has a plan. And then he said, I got someone else. And one of the things that of value, one of the things that Mrs. Johnson and I did before we got married, we had our own questionnaire. Because the literature says only 20% of the second marriages work. We don't like those odds, do you, Darren? That's not good. So we talked about deal breakers. She filled out a questionnaire, I filled out a questionnaire. And it deals with number 2, a deal breaker. If you're not honest, we talked about values of going to church and things like that, family. But that's another one. So you gotta know, here I am, was unemployed, broke, busted, disgusted, doesn't know what to do, and I pulled back from Olivet University, where that when HK used to say about the value, know who you are. You can't help anybody if you don't know anything, and things like this, and being the best person you have. Any other comments on values? Anything else on values? Anybody want to share their value? Yes, go, doctor. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about the turning points and a life-threatening illness, and I know I experienced one when I was back in 2006, and I remember it was about this time, the end of the school year, which is always hectic, and I got really, really sick and ended up going to the hospital, and I thought, well, they'll just keep me overnight and check on some things and I'll be on my way, and it turned out that I had gotten an infection, and you've seen people on the news that have that flesh-eating infection. And so I had that on my side, and what I thought was going to be overnight was 3 months in the hospital, and the doctors gave me 20% chance of making it. So I was on the ventilator for about 2 weeks, and it was really kind of, touch and go. And that was a hard time. I was, my kids were 3 and 5 at that time. There was nothing I could do. I was on my back in the hospital, and I had to learn how to walk all over again because it was severe, and by all means I shouldn't be here today, or at least I should be an amputee, in some form. And I was in the middle of my doctoral program, so I had to withdraw from the doctoral program, and it was, I was at that point of, okay, why is this happening? What's going on? And I could have given up, but once I got over that illness, got back on my feet, my family was okay. The first thing I did was I got right back in that doctoral program, because I wasn't going to let that stop me, all the work that I had done. And so a lot of times people see me now, and they're like, when a crisis comes up, and I'm not real emotional, because after you face death, what is there after that?
That's right.
I thank God that, He blessed me, and He had a plan, that it wasn't my time to go at that time. But after that, I just stayed real nice and calm through whatever's going on, because, after you almost die, then anything that comes after that, I'm like, we can handle this. This is nothing. So, those life-threatening. Yes.
And you're going to experience it. Loss of a loved one, job, for something, and you got to be prepared. So what's the takeaway that I'm trying to communicate on values? What is it? What's the takeaway? Anybody? What is it?
Know who you are.
Know who you are. Be yourself. There's so many people going around trying to be someone else. Be yourself. Know those core values, Joe, that really, that's what you're made of. Because you attract people that are similar to you. That's why wealthy people don't hang around with crooks. They broke. So know who you are and know it. And that's what Eva and I did. We just sit down and prayed and said, now, the values, making sure they are congruent. 80% failure rate was not good for us. That 80% of the second marriages is going to fail. So we wanted to do something about it, and we did it. Any other comments on the takeaway on value? know that turning point, because if you haven't had a turning point, just live, right, Reverend Travis? You're gonna have a turning point.
The only thing I'd just like to add in, see, the good Lord has a plan for our lives. And you encounter things and even make you question, Lord, why did you let this happen to me? But if we just go to scripture and look at Joseph
Mm-hmm.
and what he went through, his brothers put him in the pit, sold him, and all. So we encounter these various different situations, and it's our value system that carries us through. And I have to just say one, because I was just a teenager, and I had been trained. A Jewish gentleman took me under his wing and trained me to telephone trade. And back in those days, African American couldn't be a linesman installer. So they told me I had to leave town. And, you know, all I knew, that was where I was from. But I just prayed. And once again, the only thing I could do during the Korean War is volunteer and go into the military. And so we encounter these, but when I go back and I look at Joseph's life and how the blessing, see, what the Lord wanted you to do was to leave, but you wouldn't have left on your own.
That's right.
Had they not fired you.
That's right.
Because I'd have been in Sneed today, or some small town in Florida, had I not been run away. My plan was to stay there. My dad had 10 kids. I planned to have 11. I ended up with 7. but the good Lord intended for you. I have something else for you. And well, look how successful you've been. And with that value system, how God took you, and because I must have met you right after then, because ever since that I've known you, you've been prospering.
Thank you, Reverend. You've been so good. Number 2, HKism, this is one, all of them important, is what? Integrity. I gotta share a little illustration that HK was a very talented man. He can fix anything, man. And my son said, you didn't get that.
I never said I didn't get past that.
He could fix anything. And he started, we was at Olivet University. He started a company, it was Johnson and Sons. Very talented. It was a painting company. Get to the point. Here it is. He used to say, boy, I gave you. So he painted this person's house. He underestimated his material costs. Every week we get paid, $25, $50. And this week we was less. Instead of $50, we got $15. We had enough nerve, Joe, to ask him about it. He said, why didn't we get the $50 or whatever? And his response was, boy, I gave the man my word.
Yes.
That was the first thing,
Yes.
a teachable moment. And even though I underestimated the material cost, that's easy. I used to say, what, just say instead of $200. You just say, I just made a mistake, like people today. Boy, I gave the man my word. So that was my first teachable in integrity. Don't lie. Until it's written somewhere, even if you have to suffer. And I was a little boy at that time. He made a significant emotional event in my life that if you give a man your word, you got to honor it, period.
That's right.
You got to honor it. That was his thing on integrity. Boy, I gave a man my word.
Yes, sir.
And then he always said, keep your word.
Yes, sir.
He said, integrity is doing what's right when no one is watching.
Yes.
Are we going to be candid with people? Do the good, the bad, and the ugly. So these are the things that all my life, when I got out of it, I tried to demonstrate that in running my agency, Darren. I really tried. I tell the people, no, this is not a covered loss. I didn't, clients used to send me checks at that time. They said, Don, you fill it out. I mean, really, it was just something, and it just, I'm not bragging, but people just, how they did. But the main thing, the takeaway is, boy, I gave the man my word. That was the first thing that I experienced about integrity, that no matter what, if you tell somebody, you gotta honor it. He used to say all the time that lying has consequences. You reap what you sow. All these things. And I remember that as I was going through my tenure as running the agency. It was one young man that worked with me several years. He just got a better job. And the thing about it, he started, as far as in our business, is a non-compete clause. I said, man, and he was just trying to steal all my stuff. And I said it 3 times. I said, this belongs to me. You got this? Watch my, and he was just trying to steal it. What I do about that, I just prayed for him. But that's the thing. Allegedly, the coach at Bill Walton's son, what is his boy's name, Sacramento, he got charged with it. It's nothing that in the paper, somebody always, their character has been compromised by lying. And that is the thing. That's number 2, H.A. He instilled in that. Do I do it all the time? Do I fall short? Yes. But I really, all my 33 tenures, no, this is not covered. I apologize, this is not covered. And I tell them this. And so that's any other. There is some 10 commandments. I want y'all to pick 1 or 2 of them is in your book that you like and why you like it, somebody. The one, number 6, I like is what Dr. Maxwell. Image is what people think we are. Integrity is what we really are. If you look at one and you want to read it, and why that one? So to take a word, the way is it that you don't compromise, doctor. You don't do it. It's not. You got to make a decision before it happens. You got to make a decision before you get in a situation that you're not going to do this. Here are my standards, regardless. I don't care. Anybody got one? Anybody got one that stands out on the 10 Commandments? You want to read it and why that is important to you. Anybody got one on the 10 Commandments and why that is important, and let us know. Anybody? Dr. Martin Luther King is one. The ultimate measure of a man is not during moments of comfort. It's during challenges and discomfort, how he will or she will handle it. That's the one. I think about that all the time. One of my favorite scriptures is that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Even when you got to remember, 35 years ago, back in Cobb County, they didn't have many African American. I don't think they had any African American agents, State Farm agents. Really, it was a different ball game, man. It was something. I said, go out there and didn't know where I was going, be embarrassed. I said, go knock on the door and talk to people about the insurance. They just keep talking and this and that. And I remember before Dr. Travis retired, he said, boy, don't you ever get in trouble because you're going to get caught because too many people know it. Anybody else on the 10 Commandments? You all live by this dogma all the time. I just want to say that and just reinforce it's being different. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Integrity is choosing courage over comfort. This is number 10.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Choosing what is right over what is fast or easy, and to practice your value statement rather than simply professing them. The example I have, I was an officer in the Navy on a ship, and we were conducting security drills, and the captain of the ship wasn't taking it as seriously I thought he should. And I made him aware of my displeasure. He'd been the captain, I'm basically a lieutenant. He didn't like it, but he understood. I basically said to him he had his values screwed, which is not probably the thing you should say to a captain of the ship. But I had to say something. I had to say what was right. From that interaction, he wrote me a letter of recommendation or commendation because I showed him what he was doing was wrong.
Took courage.
Yeah.
Stand up, being bold,
Yeah.
and steadfast.
Yeah.
Doing what's right.
Yeah.
You're going to be challenged with this all the time, and you got to make that decision before. And thank you, Tony, for sharing that. And I tell them at the beginning when we start this partnership. If you lie to me, it's a deal breaker. I can deal with anything else.
Yeah.
You know, we can fix it. You know, if you make a mistake, but if you lie, you go outside and look on the sign on that door, on the sign, and see Don Johnson, you're not going to be around. So I try to do that all the time. So that's a deal breaker. And you got to make this decision before the things occur.
Mr.
No,
Johnson,
yes,
I wanna
ma'am.
say one more thing. When I was when I was a little girl, I was, I guess, mischievous. And my mother would always tell me before I'd answer, she said, now, she called them stories, she didn't like us to say lies. If you tell me a story, you're gonna be in trouble. But if you tell the truth, even though it was something I did that I wasn't supposed to do, you're not gonna be in trouble. So I would still do the wrong things, but then I would tell her the wrong thing, you know, what I did, and I wouldn't get in trouble. So that's just how I live today, you know. Okay, I didn't, not to hurt anybody, but I'm gonna tell you the truth, because I think if I tell you the truth, I'm not gonna get in trouble because I said it, but I am gonna try to make it right now as an adult.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Number one is what? HKism?
Value.
Huh?
Value.
Number two is what?
Integrity.
And number three is what? Relationships. Everything is about relationships. Everything. I was a jury commissioner. I'm not saying this, but just didn't even know anything about Cobb County, man. I was, did the commencement address at KSU and things like, it was about relationship. And in Cobb County, we raised over $9 million for Cobb County United Way when I was here. And the way I did this was building relationships. I mean, just that people say, Don, I need some life insurance. Don, I was just building because people would do business with people that have the same value. And that's how I did it. I wasn't smart enough, but I was sitting there, you go ahead and I'm closing on this house and think. Relationships, you gotta be very intentional. And HKism says that, there's consequences in life if you're not honest. The thing about it is that I tell my team that we are in social media. That's great. That is great. Use it. People like high tech, but they want high touch. They like the touch. The touch and say that I would appreciate your business and this and that. They want that.
Yes.
Because I remember somebody closed on a house that went to Zion Baptist Church, and they didn't select me. And I was whining like a little kid and this and that. But I didn't ask them for the business. You gotta ask for the business. If you don't ask, you don't get it. Relationships. Align yourself with people that have similar value system. Treat your team members as your best client. And that's how we did. And the agency is relationships. It's the law of 250. What that means, you all know 250 people that I don't know. So you got to leverage that and being up and being even better than your competitors. Anything else on relationship that I'm saying that we're supposed to be? Any other comments on relationship? I want to be respectful to your time.
Yeah, I'll put something out that my grandmother instilled in me, and I learned through my parents as well. They always told me never meet a stranger. So you always say hello, good morning, whatever you can to anybody you come in contact with, because you never know how far they may go with that person. But also too, it's about building those relationships. Being a school teacher, I'm sure people in my building probably don't like me because I'm an outgoing individual. I say good morning, good afternoon to everybody I come in contact with, from the kids to my fellow coworkers. I'm making a point to walk through my school, through the halls, to say good morning to teachers, because once again, you never know how far that goes with someone, to see how they're doing. But also too, I was always taught the mindset of you treat wherever you work as though you own it. If you see trash on the floor, pick it up. Because one day you will be in that type of situation, you know how to conduct yourself because it's always been in you. So, like I said, my grandmother always taught me never meet a stranger, and I do that to this day. I speak to everybody I come in contact with and build those relationships. And I encourage my coworkers, if you can't build relationships with these kids, this is not the job for you. You can't build relationships, period. This is not the job for you because once again, you have to build that relationship and build that rapport with someone in order for them to listen to you, respect what you're saying, and trust you, especially when it comes to children. Because the gift of trust is very fragile, and once that's broken, it's hard to get that trust back. So that's just my little.
No,
take on
that's
relationship.
excellent. It's all about relationship. It's not, it used to say, it's not who you know, right? It's not what you know, but who you know. But someone else has said, the key is, I even took it a step further. I said, who knows you? I remember when Congressman Newt Gingrich was the 6th District Congressperson for the state of Georgia. And I got to know him. I mean, he drives a car, right? And what I sell car insurance, right? And he lives in the house, right? And I sell homeowners insurance. Well, here it is. But he invited me, it was 2 people out of the state of Georgia, out of his district. President Nelson Mandela received the Congressional Gold Medal Award. And I was able to attend there. I mean, really, I thought it was that. David Hankerson and I went up there. It was just, I mean, it was 200 people in the Rotunda room. A little boy from St. Louis. I'm just telling you how good God is, ladies and gentlemen. If you got a good heart, you got values, you got some integrity, you build a relationship. Congressman Gingrich said, Mr. Johnson, I'd like for you to go up there, and I thought he was kidding, and just haven't been. So I went to experience that. And they gave President Mandela a standing ovation. You think about who is our political leaders and who's who in this great country, all the congressmen and all of those, and that's when President Clinton was the president at that time, and he was just out of prison, and he didn't have any hate for anybody. He had love. He just stood up there and smiled. And Ben, he was the Speaker of the House. Congressman Gingrich was the Speaker of the House, and President Mandela was here. I was sitting almost where Eva is sitting. Man, that was an experience. Father, I thank you. Number 1 is what?
Values.
Number 2 is what?
Integrity.
And number 3 is what?
Relationships.
And number 4 is deliverables. I remember Ron and I and Melvin, we were at Olivet University.
Who's Ron and Melvin?
Ron is my twin brother, and that's your uncle. And Melvin is your brother. That's your uncle too. And you got Oscar, Virgil, Julius, and Bernard. So being a little boy at Olivet University, those old deacons used to say, "Hey boy," oh, I guess that was their word. Calling us Ron and I, we was just cool walking, and we just kept on. Then he said, "Hey, HK boy." By then, you better stop on a dime. Because he'll go back. So then we will run up there. Here's the point. We will run up there. Sir, how can we serve you? That's in deliverables. When someone allow you to serve them, how can I serve you? That was the thing. And we were faking it at this time, mumbling on our breath, and all that. But how can I serve you? That's in deliverable. So you take that into business. How can I serve you? I tell my team, in this business, if they write a check, you got a good valuation. If they don't, you didn't do good for whatever work. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. So you got to make sure, you got to be school is never out. You got to be outstanding in your craft. Learn about everything. School is never out. Be an expert. So they come and seek your guidance and this and that. Deliverables is how they experience in doing business with you or your team. You got to treat your team like your best customers. The people that I work with, I try to treat them my best customers. So they will treat The paying customers are important because people want what? To feel valued, respected, and feel important. It's that experience. They can get auto insurance from anybody. They can buy homeowners insurance from anybody. So that is the deliverables. Gone beyond. One of the things I used to say, and then some. You do this, and then some. You do this, and then some. Making it a pleasurable experience. So they will want to do business, and then they will be your ambassadors. I have had people for you. They will be your ambassadors. Even if my premium spike and it's too high, they would still want to do business with you. No, yes, ma'am.
There was one, I was in the office one day, and there was one client who had left to go to another insurance agency because he found a better price. And after being there, I forget how long it was, a month or two, he came back and said, "Don, please take me back. Can I please come back?" And he's like, "Oh, you can always come back with your family." But it was because of the atmosphere, because it's really like a family atmosphere in there. And it's also knowing that Don will always go to bat for his clients, always. If something goes awry, he's gonna always go to bat for them. And obviously, this other insurance agency didn't have that motto. So he came and Don said, "Oh, you can come back, you can always come back home." But that's just an example of the importance of what you offer people, how you support people. All those things come into play, or you're not gonna have any business.
Reverend Travis taught me, you say what you're going to say, then sit down. So I said what I had to say, then sit down. So you all could have been anywhere. I hope something was said. Anybody got any takeaway or anything? Anybody want comment? Anybody got any takeaway? We're going to be respectful for your time. Anybody got any comments before?
Well, you've been a living example, and I just want to tell you how much I appreciate how you summed this up and pulled it all together. Because I'm always reminded when you told me that, you know, that you would get on the telephone and start calling. And you think about, well, even though if they hang up in my face, I still got to call. Because this is the way I make my money.
That's right.
And I quote that all the time. And I just want to say you've been a living example. And also thank you because you was in sales and I never was in sales. But remember you held up, I don't know how many times at the church that where we were raising money and capital campaigns and all. And I want to say I love you from the depths of my heart. Thank you. And I always think about you and think how you took care of me up in Chattanooga the other week.
Thank you. There is an evaluation, DC, evaluation, please, because I'm going through my introspection and see how God want to use me in my next career, whatever I'm going to do. I'm praying on that about what's next and how I can serve and edify. If you got some help me, please do not put your name on it, any kind of evaluation. We want to thank, any comments that would be helpful. Hey, thank you there. Go ahead, Christopher, Darren Christopher.
So I guess really like my 30 plus years that I've actually been in Georgia. I mean, I've been hearing Uncle D, kind of right where he is today. So it's only gotten better. But I guess what I really want to say is he's the middle of all of the contingent, but I never really got a chance to know my grandfather, which is on my dad's side. So all the HK-isms, I mean, I'm 54 years old, so I've always heard it all of my life, but now I can actually feel and see him from the pictures that we have in the house and amongst the family. But it's just good to see that, that you can always rely on your dad and what he instilled in you as a young man. And like I said, I never got a chance to know him. I know who he is, but now I can actually feel his personality in reference to how he was actually able to raise his family.
Any other comments? Thank you all. You all could have been somewhere else. You took time from your very busy schedule. We have some literature here on the table, but we do appreciate. Fill out the comments card so it could be helpful to us, and we got information. So Dr. Wellesby, Quincy, Tony, Joe, everybody, we appreciate you all coming, and it's over.
Thank you.
Everybody. So, but we thank you all for.
Now, come on, we can do better. Let's